Everyone, today Ismail Navarro, Countervail CEO. I'm here today with a good buddy of mine, Yasmai Landry, head of IT security and at Metrio. Um, Yasmai, how about you introduce yourself and give the audience a little high level?
Sure. So I currently work as a head of IT and security, as you just mentioned, at a company called Metrio. We recently got acquired by Nasdaq, so I'm not a Nasdaq employee. And I also do a bug bounty on my free time. I used to be quite active, but I'm now a parent of a 3-year-old, so that takes a lot of my time. So I still do like, I don't know, 20 hours per month, for example. So yeah, for me, that's still like a passion. So I enjoy doing bug bounty. And yeah, so I think that's a good introduction for
Yeah,
me.
but don't be shy. It's the, like application testing, pen testing.
Yeah, so I have a
Um,
background of pen testing and everything AppSec as well. I used to be a full-time pen tester, which is how I we work together. I used to hack some stuff, and you tried to block me. And I was also a consultant in the past year or two in AppSec, so I help companies bring up to speed their AppSec program so they can try to prevent people like me and hack on their applications.
So for the audience today, Yasma and I, we're just gonna do like a 101 session with Have I Been Pwned? A lot of people know about it, but they don't really know what to do with it once they discover that they've been part of a compromise, whether it's any of the name listed, large organizations that have been a part of a breach. And we're just gonna go through like a high level exercise today, and Yasma is, gracious enough to help me out with that. And so I guess we'll kind of just dive in really. Yasma, what's your take on Have I Been Pwned? And like for the 101 people out there, right? Like your grandmother, your mom, or people new to IT security, how would they get immediate win from it?
It's tough for people who don't really understand what it is. Like I've had friends in the past contact me saying, "Oh, I think my account has been hacked. Like someone's had got my password, they got into my Facebook account or whatever." And like my first thing that I ask them is like, "Have you checked on Have I Been Pwned?" They're like, "What's that?" Well, obviously they don't know what it is because for us, people who work in security, we know what it is. We've worked with it in the past. But for them, it's like, what the hell is that? So then we have to explain to them what it is. Explain to them it's like a database um, of all breaches that has happened in the past where credentials or any kind of breach have been compromised. And a lot of times, a lot of people use the same password everywhere. So let's say their account got compromised on X system. If they use it on other applications such as Facebook, for example, well, their account could be compromised there as well. Um, so I think it's just like it's it's unfortunate that it's not a popular system for our grandmas and everybody out there because it could be really beneficial in terms of um, identifying bad practices that people do on a day-to-day basis. So I think if it would be like a more well-known service, I think it would make people more aware of the dangers of having like weak passwords and just like having it could potentially improve their understanding of cybersecurity and how to behave properly on the internet, I guess.
So I guess I'll pause right there and I'll just cut to the screen right here. Have I Been Pwned? And I'm just going to run this really quick for the audience. This is an
Yeah.
account. So as you can see, we get to the account. Have I been pwned? Oh no. And then these are part of the breaches that the account has been a part of, right? And I'm going to go ahead as I don't know if I mentioned before in the beginning, but Yasma and I are kind of doing like a very high level purple team exercise here, where me as on the blue and both blue and red side, kind of seeing it from both perspectives, but also getting Yasma's opinion on it. When you're trying to recover, your account from being part of a breach or a compromise, and the first thing, the first step that I would look into, okay, yeah, have I been part of one of these things here? And then kind of go from here, right? So where do you go from here with your email account, right? First, you want to change your password. That's kind of like a 101 thing. Secondly, you might want to use it as a junk email, potentially set up a new one, scrub everything from your email bucket and start fresh. What does that actually mean? That means deleting everything that's irrelevant to you, moving over anything that has account information, that could be banking information. So if you use, for example, your compromised email account, you might want to open up a new Gmail account, or it doesn't have to be Gmail, anyone that you're comfortable with, but you open up a new account and you start transferring all your account information over there. That being anything that has to do with like PCI data, which is like your payment card data, your P2I data, anything that has like your addresses, maybe you've collected receipts or have any kind of information on. Yasmin, I'm going to stop right here with this and just kind of touch back and get your take on what I've said. And then how do attackers kind of further that if you've already, you've changed your Gmail, you've turned it into some crazy Levenstein distance, you created a Gmail that's like 123 ABC XYZ 29020 at Gmail, and you use it for your banking information. What else are attackers doing when they've used this information? They have it as part of a compromise, and obviously, if they're compromising millions of accounts, it takes a while to enumerate through those things. But let's say they stumble on yours, like what is an attacker going to do? And is the information that I've given so far, changing your password, that's 101. Maybe creating a new account, dumping everything from your old account and moving all your private, the stuff that you want to keep, personal and just isolated from a trash account. Once you've moved that over, what other steps do you think attackers are looking at, and how do we mitigate some of those basic practices?
Yeah, I think so. Changing the password, like I said, is would be step number one. I'd say step number two might not be like too late, but enable 2FA. This could, even though they have the password
I
in
missed
hand,
that one.
even though they have the password in hand,
Can we pause right there
enable
for
it.
a second? Because that's a good point.
Yeah,
Gmail has these Titan keys that you can get. I think they're cheap. They're like
right.
30, $40. And you can actually, I don't know if the screen can see this or if you could see that, but this Titan key
Yeah, we
you
can see
can
better
order
now.
through Gmail, and you can actually plug this in and it actually works as a second factor. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean
Right.
to cut you off, but I'm like, man, that's the one thing I missed right there, but okay.
Yeah, so yeah, enabling 2FA would be like step number two. It might be too late, but if the attacker wants to connect your account a second time, then at least you'll have that extra protection. I think one thing that people often forget is having a good. This is like really a tough one for people to have, but similar to companies have asset management, people to also have like some kind of inventory of places where they've subscribed or logged in or registered
Mhm.
to applications and services. Because if so, one of the main things that we see is password reuse. Like I mentioned earlier, people often use the same password for different services, or they like switch, for example, one character at the end or at the beginning, or those common passwords depending on the year and season. So it's easy for attackers to get and brute force those passwords. So if you
So
have
if
like
the
a
attacker has like they use like let's say Spiderfoot for instance, which your common
yeah,
person isn't going to really know about, right? But for
right,
people out there who are unaware of like open source information, I know I'm kind of going off the rails here a bit, but an attacker effectively uses that open source and says, they have Under Armour, they've got Facebook, they've got LinkedIn,
exactly.
all these different apps, and I'm going to now just start enumerating through. I'm going to start checking each one and saying, how many of these are Seahawks 2019 with the
Hmm.
asterisk, or how many of these are Seahawks 2019 with the question mark or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So like they go through all these services because typically what they're looking for is money, right? So they're looking for an application where you have a registered credit card so that they can buy stuff or whatnot. So if you have like a good inventory of where you've registered with that account, then even though you've been compromised on a single application, you technically have to change your password everywhere. If you have like the same password everywhere, or if this password is similar. So changing your password is on the application is good, but you also have to change it in all
For
places, and also
everything
make
you're
sure
doing.
that you have 2FA enabled when possible on everywhere as well. Um, and then 2FA is like another discussion. But
Yeah.
like you said, using that key is like the best option. Having something hardware, of course, everything that's application or even like SMS is not considered as secure as it used to. Um, so yeah, and then when talking about emails, I do the same thing. I have one email account where it's like where everything that I have in there is I consider sensitive or confidential. I make sure that account is as secure as possible. Then I have other accounts like that is used for spam or when I do bug bounty, which is like an account where if it gets compromised, I don't care at all. You'll just get emails and junk and no sensitive information, no PII at all. Um, and yeah, I think you covered most of what I thought of as well.
Cool. Yeah. So I just wanted to, just for the general audience, like I said, there's probably going to be, IT security folks on here. Like I said, that kind of just went over my head really quick, yeah, because having the multi-factor and then having an account of everything, not to say that we would probably use the same passwords for everything across the board, because that's insane. I use a key pass, which is, a key obviously that I have to plug in, which is another story in itself, right? It's like an index of all my passwords that are like, 35 to 56 characters long and, used differently across every different application. But, some people aren't taking it that far where you have a master key that's encrypted and then you plug it into your computer and then has a index of all your passwords. Some people use LastPass, but that was recently compromised, I think.
Yeah, I heard about that.
But yeah, not to go down that rabbit hole. So I think to recap, having a multi-factor, Titan Key if you're using Gmail or at least having some sort of SMS or Google Authenticator app. Having multiple email accounts, one for sensitivity, one for mid-grade, and then one for junk potentially. What else am I missing? Just for people who are on there, having an index of all your apps, if you are using the same password or, kind of a variant of the same password, like Seahawks 2019 asterisk, Seahawks 2019 question mark, Seahawks 2019 exclamation point, across, all your different apps, then, one, you should change them. And if you're going to keep the same password, in those different variants, then they have to be changed across all those different application distributions. What else am I missing?
Well, I think we briefly went through the topic, but not that much, is using a password manager so that you don't have to remember all these passwords and have the password manager remember it for you. And that way you can have more secure passwords and don't have to remember Seahawks 19 or whatever for every single application. You'll just have that. So you technically have to remember one master password, and then the password manager takes care of the rest.
Yeah, so for folks out there, what Yasmine is talking about, password manager, is something like LastPass, which actually was compromised recently, which is in the browser kind of storage, but there's also like a password safe. There's other mediums for that. There's also a physical drive that you can keep. So for folks that don't know what we're talking about, you can have something like KeePass on a USB drive, which has a master password. And then you can start storing like hundreds of different passwords in massive encrypted links. You could have a 100-character password if you want for banking, etc. So I think that's pretty much it. Yasmin, I want to thank you for helping me out today with this. I appreciate your time today, and thanks for helping out Countervail with this, quick little Purple Team 101 exercise. I know it's generic for us, but there's a lot of people out there like, oh, what's this? Have I been pwned? What's this? Have I been pwned? How do I figure out what do I even do with this once I figure out that I've been part of a compromise? And hopefully we touch base on that today for those people out there that they don't even know the next step. So Yasmin, thanks for your time. And you know what? It was nice catching up with you too, man, because I haven't talked to you
Yeah,
in a long
definitely.
time. And
Yeah, it has been a while.
we can't go years without communicating, man. I know we get caught up in our own worlds, and for everyone else out there too. I mean, you have buddies out there in the cyber defense industry, and touch base, man, because these relationships are good, and I appreciate yours, and very thankful that you joined me today. So
It was my pleasure. I was happy to be here.